Chapter 2380, Sangde. Published by Divine-Tao Library. Translator, Salavan and Rykov. Translation checker, Pew Pew Lasergun. Editor and proofreader, Leo of Zion Mountain and Dale Ligerkeys. You crippled my arm. Even now, Yu Leping was unable to accept the reality that one of his arms had been wasted and glared hatefully at Yang Kai while he hissed at him with his face almost completely distorted from the pain. Scram! Yang Kai bellowed. To think a petty third-order Dao Source Realm cultivator would dare act so arrogantly in front of him, it was simply ridiculous. Yang Kai had not been in a good mood these days since he ended up on Clear Sky Island during this tragedy. Now that someone had taken the initiative to stumble right into the tip of his spear, he naturally took advantage of this situation to vent his anger. Yu Leping seemed to only have realized now that Yang Kai wasn't an easy man to pick on, so he gave him a vicious glare before scurrying away while holding his injured arm. There was still silence in front of the Grandmaster's door and the rest of the crowd stood there pale, chills running down their backs. Hasn't the Grandmaster opened his doors? How much longer do we have to wait? Yang Kai immediately urged the boy when he saw the latter standing there like a fool. Yes, follow me. The boy shrunk his neck, not daring to dally any longer and hurriedly led the way. From the hot temper and ruthlessness that Yang Kai just displayed, the boy estimated that if he was not Grandmaster Sangda's apprentice, then this guy may even turn his fists to him. After all, he didn't speak out for him when Yu Leping stole his spot. In just a short while, the group of 10 was led by the boy into the inner hall where he pointed to a side door. Enter one by one. The Grandmaster is right inside. You know the rules, so please. After that, he quickly slipped out of sight. After he left, the first cultivator looked cautiously at Yang Kai and found that the latter had already found himself a place to sit down. Only then did this man realize that Yang Kai had no intention of stealing the first spot and couldn't help breathing a sigh of relief as he hurried inside to seek out the Grandmaster for artifact refining. The other 8 who came to see Grandmaster Sangda also found a place to sit down, but they were all on guard against Yang Kai, so they sat as far away from him as possible. It made it seem like Yang Kai was hogging the place as the rest were all crowded together. But Yang Kai was not bothered, simply shutting his eyes to rest. That Yu Leping is no ordinary man. This senior brother should be careful. A gentle voice suddenly came into Yang Kai's ears. Yang Kai opened his eyes and swept his gaze over, soon fixing his gaze on a beautifully dressed young woman. Among the 10 here to seek out the Grandmaster, only 2 were third-order Dao Source realms. Other than Yang Kai, it was this young woman. The others were all in either the first or second-order Dao Source realm. Even though this young woman was dressed in simple clothes, it was still hard to cover her natural beauty. Yang Kai gave her a glance before no longer paying too much heed to her. Nonetheless, he did not expect to receive a message at all from her. When she saw Yang Kai looking towards her, the young woman just nodded lightly before averting her gaze. In this inner hall, Yang Kai's and her cultivation were the highest, so were their divine senses, therefore, there was no need for them to worry about their conversation being discovered by others. However, as she was acting so secretively, it was clear she did not want to get herself into trouble. Many thanks to this junior sister for the warning. I will remember it, Yang Kai responded. Seeing that he still looked uncaring, the young woman urged once more, this senior brother, you must not be careless. Yu Leping is someone from the City Lord's mansion. He acts domineeringly in Clear Sky City because he has the City Lord's protection and never places anyone else in his eyes. You caused him such a huge loss this time, so he will surely not just let it go. If he wishes to court death, I do not mind fulfilling it. When she heard Yang Kai brushing it off so simply, the young woman instantly broke out in cold sweat. That must not happen. If you kill him, you will no longer be able to find shelter on Clear Sky Island. Yang Kai smirked. The tree wishes for silence, but the wind does not let up. What can I do? Listening to this, the young woman sighed. She knew that what Yang Kai said was right. Yu Leping was already let off easy by Yang Kai during what happened today, but with his usual character, he would not just let matters rest. When the time came, Yang Kai would either have to surrender without a fight or resist him. He also did not look like the type of person to just swallow his anger. Many thanks to this junior sister, Yang Kai gave her a simple thank you. Even though this young woman did not help him in any significant way, she still warned him in secret with good intentions. The woman no longer spoke, but her eyes were filled with sympathy when she occasionally glanced over at Yang Kai, as if she could already foretell his tragic future. The inner hall remained silent. Nobody had any intentions of speaking with each other. Those who came here all came to seek out Grandmaster Sangda for artifact refining services, so how could they have the mood to chat while they waited impatiently? About half an hour later, the first person to walk in through the side door suddenly came out. Everyone turned towards him only to see a happy look on this person's face, as if he had encountered something good. After he came out, he left directly without a single word. The second cultivator quickly stood up and went towards the side door. Just like that, Yang Kai waited all the way until dusk. The 9 people went up one after the other, all coming out with different looks on their faces. Some happy, some reserved, but none of them came out dejected. When he saw this, Yang Kai knew that Grandmaster Sangda was the real deal. He was probably successful in refining the artifacts for all 9 of these people without a single failure. It seemed the rumors that Grandmaster Sangda had vaguely touched upon the mysteries of Emperor artifact refining were not false. When the 9th person came out from the side door, Yang Kai stood up and walked in lightly. Once inside, Yang Kai saw that the room was dim without any light, but there was a slither of brightness coming out from up ahead. Yang Kai followed the light and came into a burning hot room after a short while. Looking around the secret room, Yang Kai could see the light from the flames dancing around. A huge artifact refining furnace was placed right in the middle of the chamber, and next to it was a figure who was sitting down cross-legged. As the flames danced about, the vague figure also seemed to flicker in a bizarre and illusory manner. Even though it was quite dark in here, Yang Kai could still see Grandmaster Sangda's face at a glance. To his surprise, this Grandmaster looked just like an ordinary old man. There was nothing distinctive about him, but Yang Kai could still vaguely sense that this old man was not to be messed with. He sat there like a silent volcano with a huge amount of energy hidden within his body. In addition to being an excellent artifact refiner, this man's strength was definitely not low either. Greetings, Grandmaster. Yang Kai cupped his fists at him. Sit. Sangda raised his eyes and pointed to a cushion in front of him. Yang Kai sat down obediently. What do you wish to refine? Bring out the materials and name your request, Sangda told him. Yang Kai quickly took out the high-grade spirit purifying array. Handing it over to Sangda, I would like to ask Grandmaster to please repair this set of array base and array flags. Sangda took it from him and examined it carefully for a while before nodding. This set came from his old master's hand, so it is not difficult to repair. Yang Kai was overjoyed to hear that. He had guessed before that this high-grade spirit purifying was refined by Sangda himself, and now, it seems he was right. Since he was able to refine it, then it must be no problem for him to repair it. I have no idea what materials you need, so I did not prepare anything. If Grandmaster has any suitable materials, I will pay for them. Source crystals are no issue. Sangda struck the artifact refining furnace and the cover immediately flew up. Then, he threw the array base and the banners straight inside. Only then did he turn to Yang Kai and said, "Do I look like someone who is lacking in source crystals?" Yang Kai did not know what he meant by this and had no idea how to answer for a while. I do not want source crystals. Sangda continued. Then what does Grandmaster want? Yang Kai's heart clenched as he thought to himself, you threw the high-grade spirit purifying array into your artifact refining furnace without even asking, and now you tell me you don't want source crystals. Are you trying to raise the price right in the midst of a transaction? What if I can't afford to pay? What happens to the high-grade purifying array then? If this spirit purifying array was his own, then it wouldn't have mattered. However, it belonged to Ling Yin-chin, and it held great significance to her. If this wasn't the case, why would Yang Kai go through so much trouble? He could have just spent enough to purchase a new array and give it to her. It was because this spirit purifying array held Ling Yin-chin's memories of her fallen partner that Yang Kai went through so much trouble to seek out Sangda here to have him repair it. That depends on what you can give me, Sangda said indifferently. Yang Kai could not help but feel a little annoyed. I can't just hand over my life if you decide to ask for it, right? Sure enough, if the upper beam is crooked, then the lower beam would be too. That boy had an unagreeable character, and it seems Sangda was the same. Seems like his name was not wrong. Sangda, Sangda. Death to virtues. He suppressed the displeasure welling up inside of him and quickly said, what does Grandmaster want? If I can provide it, I will offer it freely. His words implied that if it was not possible, then he would not try. Sangda's lips curved into a strange smile. Just as Yang Kai had his mind focused and was ready to hear his demands, a pure surge of spiritual energy suddenly came from Sangda, converging into the shape of a spear and stabbing straight towards Yang Kai's knowledge sea. Even though Yang Kai was taken by surprise, his reaction was not slow. quickly pushing his own spiritual energy to meet this attack. Hong. The silent collision shook both Yang Kai and Sangde. There was some surprise in Sangde's eyes as a scary light suddenly replaced their former indifference. With eyes that looked like he wanted to devour Yang Kai, he stared at him as if he had just found a rare treasure. Yang Kai on the other hand got up in a flash. He had been hit with a sneak attack earlier, but he did not fully release his divine sense. It wasn't that he did not want to release it, but he was afraid of hurting Sangde. If his soul were to become heavily injured here, then nobody would be able to fix the spirit purifying array for him. But Yang Kai was still enraged that Sangde would attack him without saying a word. He decided that if this old man did not give himself a satisfactory explanation, then he would point a knife to his throat and force him to repair this spirit purifying array that he created so that it was as good as new.